Now, preview time. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another brand new installment of the DADS, not always on wrestling. Believe it or not, Meacham, I had to catch myself there. I almost said Renegades reviews, but I didn't. Full disclosure, it is what it is. But
It's recording day.
yeah, I'm trying to get so much stuff done and accomplished
Yes.
while we have the time and the opportunity and the weather permits. But I digress. Buy the shirt.
At
We
least
all
it's
know
finally
I
Friday,
did.
brother. Like I said. So
That's
there
right. It
you
is
go.
finally Friday, and it is time to engage in some hashtag shenanigans. Let the
Shenanigans.
shenanigans begin.
It's time again for shenanigans.
And if we got a doozy of a topic for you this week,
Doozy's the word.
today we are going to be discussing our top 10 TV villains of all time.
Now,
Now, to quote another shirt, here's the thing.
yeah, exactly.
I thought this show was going to be a lot easier than what it ended up being.
Yes, definitely. It
And
definitely it was tough to get. At least for me, it was tough to get to 10. Period. And because full disclosure, you and I are primarily sitcom folks, and
yeah,
it's
like
there's not a whole lot of
sitcoms.
evil on the sitcoms.
No, there's not. Like, I felt like I cheated some because my list has some cartoon characters.
Well, yeah, okay,
But at the end of the day, I'm not a big drama TV watcher.
right,
The type of shows that you're going to get legit villains in.
fair,
I'm a
fair,
sitcom guy.
yes,
I grew up watching cartoons. So, again, I feel like I cheated by having some of those on there. But much like you, I did what I had to do to get
right,
to 10.
yeah, that's right. Now, I'm gonna be your Larry the Cable Guy today, brother.
Okay.
And I say that because you're saying you had to cheat a little bit. Much like Larry the Cable Guy makes us feel better about our families, I'm gonna make you feel about your list. Because number 10 for me, it's a cop out. It is what it is. But I'm gonna take it and run with it. All right, so here's the deal. I picked this particular picture for the reason I picked the picture. There was no bigger evil within Mr. McMahon than sacrificing his own daughter for the sake of getting to Stone Cold Steve Austin.
That's fair.
Man, that was he did some shit in 98 and early 99. But goddamn, you tried to sacrifice your daughter to the Undertaker, brother.
Yeah.
That is the sole reason I love Lion King so much, because Scar is such an evil family killing mucker father.
That's
Like,
fair.
dude, Vince, that's some shit. So that is my one cop out. That's the one where I went, okay, I got to get to 10. Yes, Vince isn't just a TV villain. Ha ha ha, no kidding. He's Mr. McMahon. But the storyline of the reveal of the greater power, as lampooned as it is by the hardcore wrestling fans, that was some dramatic, messed up shit he did. So
Yeah, it was.
it was awful. And yes, it did delude the Undertaker that we had come to love to hate as the ministry guy. Absolutely. Which is why it's so favorably, not so unfavorably looked upon these days. And even in the
Fair.
moment, it was looked upon unfavorably. But man, when you have a father willing to sacrifice a daughter for the sake of vanquishing one's enemy,
Yeah,
that's some next level drama. That's
it
messed up.
is. It is. And
So
and at least from this end of things, I'm not going to give you any shit for it.
I appreciate that, because Lord knows people give enough company enough shit for that storyline as it is, let alone somebody trying to praise it. So all right. Good shit coming. Here we go. Number 9 could be a cop-out. And I
Okay.
only say that because it's not just one in this number 9 entry.
Okay.
But I couldn't really fairly classify one as the one I would pick from this particular show without having the other 3 right there with them. The core 4 of the Rogues Gallery, brother. And I did pick Julie Newmar's Catwoman on purpose. With all due respect to Eartha Kitt, with all due respect to John Astin trying his damnedest as the Riddler, Frank Gorshin, Cesar Romero, who was such a badass he wouldn't shave his mustache. That's how cool Cesar Romero is. Burgess Meredith and Julie Newmar as, respectively, the Riddler, the Joker, the Penguin, and the Catwoman on the 1960s campy as hell Batman television series. Now, going forward, we're going to have true sinister, at least on my end, sinister jerks as villains. But when you think about it, these people, however clumsily they did it, always put Batman in enough peril where we had to wait till the next day to find out if he was going to be okay.
That's true.
So that's pretty messed up. Now, granted, Catwoman wouldn't really want to hurt a hair on Batman's head. She'd rather, jump on top of him and, bounce on his own head. But that's a whole other story.
Hey-o!
Catwoman was all about that bat loving, and you know what? I think Adam West was down for it. Just throwing that out there.
Oh yeah.
And, Mayor West would have been corrupt in his politics, if you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, and Burt and his wards were all about that, them tight outfits anyway, especially Julie and Leslie Gore, which Leslie Gore would have been a completely futile maneuver, but it is what it is. Looking back, we didn't know that in the 60s.
This is accurate.
We did not know, and that was a tough blow for us fans growing up watching Batman reruns. Like, wait, what? Oh, damn it! Anyhow, growing up, even watching this show in syndication on, I think it was on KTTV on Fox out here, if I remember right, when I watched it in reruns.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, it was either KTTV or KCOP because it was the only 2 local channels that actually were local channels besides KTLA, and KTLA didn't run the Batman show as far as I know. The Batman TV series was, looking back, it was what it was, but man, it was groundbreaking at the time. Yes, it moved the character completely away from the dark origins, but I tell you, these 4 villains, for my money, were so, not compelling because they're not dramatic roles or whatever, but they were fun to watch, and they were larger than life personalities, whether they were truly evil or just up to shenanigans.
Yes.
It was a great hour of television over the 2 episodes. I'm here for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Again, I'm not going to take nothing away from you using a conglomerate, if you will, of villains, because I do the same thing coming up in a little bit. So,
and I will say,
different conglomerate,
right?
But I take the same route. So
yeah. The villains on the Batman TV series were the stuff that drove the TV series. Yes, there was the morality and the, setting the good example from Batman and Robin and Commissioner Gordon and everybody. But man, without the villains, especially the special guest stars, like, the one-offs, like Milton Berle and Maurice Evans and all them, that's
Roddy
where
McDowell.
We get our stuff. Well,
Roddy
McDowell's a villain. What the actual shit?
The Bookworm, baby.
Hell yeah,
Vincent Price.
Vincent Price more than once his egghead too. That's right.
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't on the level of Gorshin, Romero, Newmar, Meredith, but he was there more than Roddy and some of the others. Milton.
Yeah. And when you think about it, as far as playing villains outside of Batman, Vincent frickin' Price.
Throwing that out there,
I mean, Jesus.
That was my introduction to Vincent Price.
Me too.
That and Thriller.
Yes. By the way, I said it, I forget if it was earlier this year or last year. I forget when I said it. There is a clip on YouTube that's still active as far as I know of Vincent Price on the Joan Rivers show. It may have been Joan, guess I've seen Johnny Carson, I don't know. But Joan Rivers was the interviewer anyway. And Vincent Price is the full monologue from Thriller. And it's like, that needs to be watched every day by everybody because, damn it, he still got it at that point. All right. Anyway.
But we digress.
Yes. Buy the shirt that Jay wore on the last show 2 weeks ago. Because he did. Obviously, because he wore it. Number 8 comes from the show that inspired the font of today's graphic. And you're thinking, okay, it's Once Upon a Time. So he's probably going to go with Rumple. He's probably going to go with the Queen because that's just the way you go. Nay, nay, sir. Because as we found out in later seasons, they weren't in charge of their own destiny. This asshole was. The author, Isaac, from Once Upon a Time. This guy, ultimately, we discover is the one that is writing the stories that drive our characters, heroes, villains, and peripherals through their lives and dictate the course of their lives. And when he gets a wild hair up his own dumb ass, decides to rewrite history and put himself at the proverbial head of the table. And everybody suffers as a result. The villains get their happy ending, or at least they try to get their happy ending. Of course, it doesn't work that way on Disney ABC because it's Disney ABC. But Isaac ultimately was the true villain of all of it, at least for the first 6 seasons, because, season 7 was what it was. But it's like, yeah, Rumple did some evil shit all throughout the series and into the backstory. But his upbringing was messed up. He had a freaking evil Peter Pan as his father. That's going to mess somebody's head up. When P-Pan is bad and your dad, your head's going to be slightly skewed. And when your mom's a legitimate black fairy, the origin of evil, you're going to have a tough go of it. And with Regina, the queen, Cora deserves to be on this list more than Regina does. Jesus. At least Regina had a decent father. God bless Henry. He tried so hard to freaking reel this crazy bitches in his life in. It just never happened. But yeah, the author for me is the true villain of Once Upon a Time. And I knew that I would bring the show up at some point because I use the font and I just love that show so damn much. Thank you again.
Yes, we both do. Yes.
Yes.
Once Upon a Time will be coming up on my list, but it's going to be basically the shit that you just ran down, but I digress.
No, it's not that I'm running down. Oh, okay. Listen, okay. But yeah, it is what it is. I just feel like without this asshole writing everybody's stories the way they laid out, they're not really bad people.
True.
So, there is that. On the other hand, this son of a bitch was so evil, was so hated, we spent the entire summer of 1980 wondering who shot JR. J.R. Ewing from Dallas.
Definitely an honorable mention for me, only because I never really watched the show.
Right. And I caught it later because I was born well into its run and didn't start watching TV like this until well into its run. But when you have the entirety of a character list of a TV show as possible suspects because you such a asshole, yeah, you're a villain. And you're one of the best villains of all time.
So good, in fact, that The Simpsons copied it with Who Shot Mr. Burns.
That is very true. And I did have that as my next one because I was going to kind of like be a tie, but the image didn't load. So let me just try and stall real quick while I pontificate over it because I'm going to keep saying it over and over again. I go, oh, there he is. Now, Mr. Burns, again, is above JR because I've grown up watching The Simpsons, right? But man, not only did we spend an entire summer wondering who shot Mr. Burns, granted, a complete parody of the JR thing. Fox owned that shit and ran with it, right? But there were, you talk about an entire town having valid arguments to shoot this sumbitch. And it turned out to be an accident from the baby. Or did it? Because that parting shot, you're going, Maggie might know more than she thinks she know. What do you think you know? But yeah.
Hey, you trying to steal candy from a baby? Just saying.
I was going to say that they're surprised that you will get shot for that. So, yeah. Or it was WrestleMania, for example. Anyway, throwing that out there. It's a bad, bad neighborhood. At least it was back in the old Kings days. Anyhow, yeah, Mr. Burns is only above JR because of my growing up watching The Simpsons. But,
yeah,
man, J.R. Ewing, the show ended on a cliffhanger thinking that we all of us thinking he'd shot himself and nobody, yeah, that's about right. Let him go. Like, Medford just shot himself on the air. Granted, all we hear is the gunshot, and we're just going to let that pass until the reunion movie? What the hell? And they did, to be fair. We had to wait like 5 years to find out if some bitch was dead or not, and we didn't worry about us being sad about it. That's how evil J.R. Ewing was. Anyway. All right, so where am I at here? 8, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, okay. All right. Next on my list, I know you're not a fan of the show or the universe this person originates from. And I hesitated not because of that. I hesitated because he's very compelling as both our hero and as one of the biggest bads in the Buffyverse. Angel Angelus. Now, first of all, love you, David Boreanaz. You're a hockey fan. You cool with me, dog. So, no problem with David whatsoever, or his ridiculously hot wife. And his kids are cool too. You know, Kings fan. Love the guy. But when we first meet Angel and the revelation comes that he's a vampire, we're like, she's a vampire slayer. This can never end well. It's Romeo and Juliet shit at this point. And then he loses his soul because he experiences a moment of perfect happiness. And by the way, gotta give a little a little kick in the butt to Joss Whedon and the people behind Buffy and the network. The moment of perfect happiness is literally having sex, having the proverbial big O. So you lose your soul by having the big O. Well, God damn it, how do you explain me? Anyway,
damn.
I think I'm resold at this point. Anyway.
Moving right along.
But when he does turn evil and we get the backstory of how evil and jealous was and how much of a poor excuse for a human being Liam was before he was sired. There was no redeeming qualities about this person, about the monster he became, and the reason he was ensouled was to make him suffer because of all the bad shit he'd done as a human and when he became a vampire. That when he lost his soul more than once throughout the show, Buffy and Angel, he was just the personification of evil. He would do. You talk about Vince sacrificing his daughter to the Undertaker for the sake of getting to Stone Cold Steve Austin. This dude killed Buffy's watcher. For those of you who don't watch the show, her teacher's significant other, and arranged the body on the teacher's bed with a petal of rose path up to his bedroom after the fact, and then went out into a area just off of the side of view from the teacher and watched the anguish over this dude's face. That was just one thing Angel did once he lost his soul. Pure evil, this guy. Talk about good-looking men that are just pure evil. No redeeming qualities whatsoever, at least at first when we meet this next guy. And again, I have you to thank for this guy's presence in my life. Although, later on, we see him in a different franchise that's going to come up a couple times later for me, but we don't see him in the TVs. We see him in the movies as Spock. Siler. I'm sure he's on your list, so I won't go too far into my shit here, but yeah, we saw Siler during our TV death scene or movie and TV death scenes episode, and we don't talk about that episode too much anymore. So I'm just gonna keep going right along. I'm so sorry again. I know, F me Meacham. I know it is what it is.
You know what? Every now and again, it's okay to bring that stuff up because I don't know if you've noticed, but when I do shows or when we reference something on here, I like to throw up in the corner the episode
That's
to
fair.
try to bring people to go back and rewatch it and relive that moment because god damn it, if I had to suffer, if my girlfriend had to be in the green room suffering the entire time, wasn't even on camera,
No,
had to be in the green room watching both of our death scenes and suffering, you can go back and relive it and watch it too. So I'm gonna link it up there in the corner. It'll be right up there over Jeff's head there.
There you go.
The top 10 death scenes episode of Dads.
It's rough, but
it's fun because god damn it, I made sure there was a little bit of haha thrown in on mine.
yeah, we had to. God, right? Especially what the hell I done did with my 10. Anyway, talk about evil sons of bitches. Here's the number one TV villain right here. Evil jerk.
For YouTube, anyways, yeah.
Yeah, for real. God.
Number one YouTube villain, Jeff Mother effing Meacham.
20 years and they still ain't found a way to kill me off. Anyway, that was pretty good actually. I'm proud of that laugh. Anyway, again, we see Siler just randomly cut off a cheerleader's head because why not? Because that's
she deserved it. She was a bitch.
Well, she deserved it, and yes, but he was trying to get to Claire. So it's save the cheerleader, save the world. Not don't save the cheerleader, destroy the world. Why not? And that's just the tip of the iceberg with Siler. So again, I will let you pontificate, I'm sure, later. All right. Next one for me, I had to really, first of all, find a picture that worked because, God, there were so many edited, AI images.
Yeah, that was another one of the issues for me was finding good pictures for these.
Well, some of the stuff we watched wasn't in HD at the time we watched it.
Most of it.
Well, yours, yes. Mine, luckily, I've been able to, it is what it is. But, and again, we're staying in the superhero world for this one. Well, supervillain in this case. I don't think I like, again, you have convinced me to the ways of the bat since our friendship began. I don't think I really loved a version of Superman or his universe any more than Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman.
Yeah,
and John Shea as Lex Luthor, which I just realized that's the back of Terry Hatcher's head there. That's in the bob cut there. I realized that, but it's okay. It is what it is. Like I said, finding picture was a bitch on this one. You talk about a duplicitous, two-faced, not Harvey Dent, evil megalomaniac. That's who Lex Luthor has always been in the Superman universe.
Yes. But
John Shea is such a charming MFer, you can't help yourself but like the guy. Because, Lois fell for him. And they killed him.
That's who he's been in the Superman universe until Jesse Eisenberg.
Fair point.
Which was my biggest contention of that movie, but that's a movie, not TV. So,
but you're absolutely right. Jesse Eisenberg completely took every trope we've ever had about Lex Luthor and went, yeah, not so much. It's like, at least keep one thing intact. Jesus, Aaron, Zach, come on now. I went to Aaron, the guy that played Harvey Dent.
Oh, okay.
Aaron Eckhart. There it is. I'm like, brain fart. Anyway. John Shea's Lex Luthor was so twisted and single-minded about ruling the world and taking over Metropolis and all that his sole mission was to take out Superman when Superman showed up. And then, oh, well, Lois likes him, so we'll make sure that we, get Lois too. Why not? And then they killed him off, but they didn't. And then they really killed him off and then actually went through the second time. They had other villains on Lois and Clark, Tempest, and they actually had the Kryptonians come in at one point. The evil, like Zod. I don't know if it was Zod or if it was offshoot of that character, but yeah, nobody beat Lex Luthor. You really gonna beat Lex Luthor as Superman villain in any facet of the world? Probably not. And John Shays was just so good that when he finally did go bald, you're like, no. You don't work as a bald Lex Luthor. Knock that shit off. So that's where he ranks as high as he does. All right. Number 2 and number 1 are both from Star Trek for me.
What a surprise.
Well, again, trying to find dramatic TV shows that I watch on the regular enough to get villains out of was a mucker brother, like I said.
Yeah.
But I'm going to surprise everybody and say that number 2 is not, or number 1 is not Q. Because people know I love TNG. I've loved Picard, hence both images, one from TNG, one from Picard. But again, I will argue that without Q being the initial villain we see in this new era of Star Trek in the 1980s, because, you can't do a Star Trek without Williams. Blah, 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 blah. Bullshit. Here's why you can. And I dare say Next Generation was the best TV series they ever did, as far as overall lasting impact. Now, Q was a tricky villain throughout his time as on Star Trek, and I say that because he's very much obsessed with Captain Jean-Luc Picard and later Admiral Picard on the Picard TV series that's on right now. But we never really knew if he was evil or he was just obsessed in a no homo love way with Picard.
Like a stalker.
Yeah. And because it turns out when we see him in season 2 of the Picard show, spoiler alert, he's been trying to help Picard all along the last 30 years. Trying to make sure Picard's life doesn't go completely sideways, to the point of the entirety of season 2 takes place in a parallel universe where Picard is a evil overlord dictator general in a federation that is so corrupt, freaking Lex Luthor would fit in just fine over there. Like it's a messed up place, and Picard is the head ass in charge because of one choice made early in his life. And Q has spent the entirety of his knowing Picard, not knowing the Enterprise crew, not knowing humanity. Picard trying to make sure Picard doesn't mess up. And it's like, damn, 30 years and he wasn't really a villain after all, but you were so compelling you believed. And then he was on DS9 for one episode, and we'll get to DS9 here momentarily. And, then he's on Voyager for a little while because, John Delancey and Kate Mulgrew were such good friends. They had to get them together. And that's where Q became tricky because he's the villain, but he has the power to go, Voyager's home. And he had no TV series. And they still found a way to make him a compelling villain that popped in, but didn't completely just, here, the villain, gets wronged in the end, so the heroes get rewarded by getting their way home, because then we've got, 4 episodes of a TV show instead of 7 years. So it's kind of doesn't work out.
Yeah.
But to the writer's credit, the last time we see Q before Picard, as far as live action goes, he hands Captain Janeway a pad that gives them a little bit more help getting home, but not here, you're home. Turns out the pad that he gave her was the access to we'll call it a wormhole for the sake of purposes of our audience, because people are going to be like, what the hell are you talking about when I say transwarp hub? And they're going to be like, huh? A more direct path home. So again, he's helping, we just don't know.
Yeah.
So villain in the sake of watching the episodes in the moment, but anti-hero in the end, and I love it. Unlike this bastard at number 1. Whew, this guy's okay.
Okay.
So we meet this character in the very first season of DS9. I think in either the first or second episode. I forget where we first meet this person. And throughout the thread of the series, he's always there. He's sometimes an ally, sometimes he's just an antagonist, just sometimes like, go away. But in the very end, he is the one villain that Captain Sisko, our beloved Avery Brooks, has to overcome to save literally the universe. My number 1 is Gul Dukat. And I know that people that, watch our stuff are going to be like, what's up with that dude's face? He is a Cardassian.
A Kardashian, what?
Well, no, the Kardashians are a whole other kind of evil. Not really for the most part. They're actually not bad people. They just get too much television time.
They make horrible decisions.
Make horrible decisions, yes. Like, defending a double murder and getting away with it. Anyway, whoopsie. The Cardassian, the threat of DS9 was these Cardassians, this race of aliens has oppressed Bajor, which was a colony of theirs, for so long, and then they finally withdraw from their occupation, and the great and powerful Federation comes in to help rebuild this planet, rebuild this culture, rebuild this society. But Dukat was the leader of the occupation of Bajor, so he's always a threat throughout the series. And so, like I said, sometimes he's an ally, he's uniting to face the greater evil. But as the series develops, he aligns himself with the ultimate bad guys of DS9, the Founders, the Shapeshifters, to regain his power position as the head of Cardassia. He is such a compelling villain, and I love Mark Alamo. He's such a great person to fill this role. I wish I could have met him at the convention. I did. I ended up meeting him later, but I wanted to meet him way sooner because I've always wanted to tell him, and I finally did, how just badass he was and is to this day.
There you go.
I said TNG was the best series that Star Trek did, but DS9 is still the most underrated.
It's fair.
Because DS9 also went 7 years, and it was the most non-Star Trek series until, this dark era where everything's dark and everything's fucked up and, whatever that they've been doing on Paramount Plus the last few years. But, yeah, for me, Dukat's the best TV villain I ever saw.
Okay. All righty then. Not bad takes, good sir.
Like I said, it was a struggle to get to 10, but once I had my 10, I'm like, all right.
All right. So, swinging things into my top 10.
Yes.
And I think you will be pleasantly surprised. We do actually share a couple.
I think at least a couple.
Yeah. We share 3.
Well, I pretty much knew what one of them would be. So
that's an obvious.
Yeah.
One of the other ones shouldn't surprise you. The other one might.
Okay.
But kicking things off on my list, and again, it was so difficult, just to reiterate what we said at the beginning. I definitely had to travel back to my younger years for quite a few of these.
Okay.
And that's why this duo is kicking off at number 10.
Okay.
Because while they both did reign as villains separately throughout the course of the show, it wasn't until they came together that things really got interesting for our heroes.
Okay.
Number 10 is Lord Zed and Rita Repulsa.
Nice. Honorable mention.
Again, Rita had the first season on lock.
Yes.
Zed had more or less the second season on lock. But when they came together and they got married and they just started trying to wreck shit as a power couple would, things got exponentially more interesting for our heroes from Angel Grove.
Right.
I mean, their villain du jour notwithstanding, because at the end of the day, they were horrid rubber suits and vinyl suits that some poor schmuck was stuffed in.
Yeah.
And most of them are forgettable if we're being real.
Yeah, you know.
But Rita and Zed they just had it to make you want to keep tuning in on a regular basis to see how the Rangers were going to defeat them.
Yes.
Because there were a few times they came close to defeating our Rangers.
It was, yeah, absolutely.
But thanks to Zordon and Alpha, our Rangers always had the tools to defeat the evil Empress Rita and Lord Zed.
And when you figure that the new for lack of a better term, tribute film just got released here recently, the Power Rangers are still going strong, and Rita's still the bad guy. That's how compelling these two characters are, dude. So great take to start, dude. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Thank you. And what do we always do here? What do I always try to do? I always try to tell stories, right?
Absolutely. Story threads, brother.
Coming in at number 9 was the one time I feel Rita came the closest to success, because it's one thing when it's a throwaway villain in a rubber suit that you can barely remember.
Yes.
It's another thing when it's one of their own.
Yes.
Tommy Oliver as the evil Green Ranger for the 5-part episode of Green with Evil.
Green with Evil, man.
The
So
introduction of the Green Ranger. Now, Tommy Oliver obviously got saved, became one of the Rangers, became the White Ranger, black, red, blah, 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 purple, yellow, gold. Dude's been damn near every Ranger that there is.
As he should be.
He's best known as being a hero.
Of course.
But these introductory 5 episodes were enough to cement him in villain history as far as I'm concerned, because
oh yeah,
at the end of the day, it was the Dark Ranger. It was the one Ranger that Rita had control of.
Yep.
And like I said, what better way to stick it to Zordon and Alpha than to send one of their own essentially after them?
Yeah. And it took
and
our
Tommy
heroes.
almost did it.
Yeah, 5 episodes it took
he was a serious thorn in the side. We thought we were going to lose Zordon.
Right?
The way he came in and just destroyed the command center. Because you can only gain access to it with a power coin, which he had.
And to think that this is the first season we're getting that here in America, and it was already like, well, shit, that didn't take long. We in trouble already. And I
honestly, I don't think the Rangers would have survived if it hadn't been for the Green Ranger arc.
Yeah, I'll agree with that, because as great as that show ended up becoming, there's the phrase, ended up becoming. Because when you think about it, Tommy Oliver, Jason David Frank is, sorry for you folks that disagree with me, Jason David Frank is the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And without him coming in during Green with Evil and really setting the tone, I don't think, I mean, we probably get the first season completed. And then what? You know? And like I said, like you said, he ended up becoming the greatest hero in the history of the Rangers. And even then, when he became the White Ranger, they had a duplicate Green Ranger, Tommy, come in and try to fight with himself.
Mm-hmm.
He's very much one of those that works on both sides of the coin. We talk about that in wrestling all the time, that the best characters work well as both.
Mhm.
Tommy Oliver is definitely one of those characters in entertainment that was so good as both.
Yeah. Unlike my number 8 villain,
Ah,
my next one's number 8 and number 7. I'm going to the world of animation for.
okay.
My number 8 villain, while definitely comical, I mean, obviously it's a cartoon.
Mm,
He never had those moments of good within him like some of my other villains did that will come later.
mm-hmm.
Some people knew him as Oroku Saki.
Ooh,
We know him as the Shredder.
hell yeah. Yeah, buddy.
I mean,
Oh, gee, I love this. This is good stuff.
just badass villainy.
Yes. Yep.
You talk about a man with a grudge.
Right?
And at the end of the day, that's all this comes down to is Oroku Saki was a longtime rival of Hamato Yoshi, Splinter.
Yep.
And it just became his mission to destroy Splinter and everything he stood for.
Everything.
And we talked about it on open mic night a few weeks ago. When you then put the piece of the pie together that James Avery, Uncle Phil from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, is the voice behind the Shredder.
Right?
You're like,
Yeah.
you know, there were some times when he was kind of a dick to Will, and you're like, man, why you got to be evil, Uncle Phil? This was his opportunity to get that evil out.
Right? Exactly. Shredder was such a badass villain that it gave the opportunity for a movie role for Kevin Nash to be the Super Shredder.
God damn it! I was trying not to go there.
Before,
I really was. Because Kevin Nash was the Super Shredder in the same freaking movie that gave us Vanilla Ice.
Go Ninja, go Ninja, go.
And is that something we really want to relive on this episode?
You know what,
I
though?
think not.
Hey, was there anything really more evil in the Ninja Turtles universe than Go Ninja, Go Ninja, Go? Let's be real.
Yes.
What was that?
Seamus is Rocksteady.
Although John Cena's going to be Rocksteady coming up soon, so there is that.
I know.
And yes, we can see him. We just don't know if we want to. Love you, John, but we're not sure yet.
Reeling things back in.
That's right.
Sticking in the world of animation, and I told you I had my own little conglomerate
Yes,
that
you
was
did.
going to be coming up. This is where it comes into play because,
all right.
I mean, our hero from this series always wanted to work alone. He never wanted to have sidekicks. He never wanted to be part of a team. But when these 5 individuals came together, it forced our hero to do the unthinkable and create his own league, if you will, the Justice Ducks, the Fearsome 5.
Ooh.
Megavolt, Bushroot, the Liquidator, Quackerjack, and Negaduck.
Nice, dude.
The 5 villains who, when just one of them is around St. Canard, good old DW usually has things well under control. But when these 5 come together, he needs Stegmut. He needs Gizmo Duck. He needs Neptunia. He needs Morgana. He needs the rest of the Justice Ducks to help defeat them. So when you can make the man who walks alone admit that he needs help,
yes,
you're doing something right.
For those of you watching home that doesn't know what DW is, first of all, why don't you know that? Second of all, Darkwing Duck.
Yeah.
And again, there are people that haven't seen Darkwing Duck, and
that's fair. That's
and
fair.
we feel
but that
sad
just
for
means,
those people, though.
that just means that you're not raising your kids right. Because God damn it, my daughter was raised
that's
on
right.
DW.
Darkwing is such an awesome character
And
that there's an Easter egg in the Mickey ride for that dude.
that's right. And she is raising her sister on Darkwing. Damn it.
That's right.
Because little Alana calls Liquidator Water Puppy.
And if you know, you know, folks. And if you don't know, get your ass on Disney Plus or something. Please.
Give it the ratings it so rightfully deserves, because we have gotten a DuckTales movie, we have gotten a Goof Troop movie, and we have now gotten a Rescue Rangers movie. But God damn it, we have yet to get a Darkwing movie. And if any show from the Disney afternoon wrote itself to be a movie, it's the superhero.
That's right.
God damn it.
This isn't cast member Jeff saying that. This is parent and longtime fan imploring the company, please.
Yes.
Anyway.
Before Jim Cummings gets too old to where he can't do it anymore.
Right. Learn from our mistakes, company. Don't let Jim get to Walt's ass where he can't do the voice no more.
Right.
Please.
All right. Number 6 on my list is the first one that we share.
Oh. All right.
And it's the one that I think will surprise you the most, because for you, it was your number 10. It was your cop-out.
You fucker!
But I have Mr. McMahon also.
I am so glad I wasn't alone in that decision process. Damn it all to hell. Oh man, that's wonderful. That makes my day now. I feel so much better about my life choices.
I mean, at the end of the day, this is the non-wrestling week for the Dad's Not Always on Wrestling, but we are still a wrestling channel.
Yeah.
Has there really been any more of a dastardly villain in the company than Mr. McMahon?
No.
Now, much like Tommy Oliver, and again, some of the other people that are going to come later, he did have his moments of good guy.
True.
But every time we saw Vince as a good guy, we said to ourselves, what's really going on in the back of that head? Because he was a good guy leading into the greater power.
Mm-hmm.
So if he was able to trick us then, what's he doing now?
That's right. There's always that underlying tone of, this isn't going to last. And it happened every single time.
Yeah.
He was such an evil bastard, he ended up getting himself removed from the company.
For real.
For real.
Multiple times, fictionally and literally.
Yes.
But if you wield the last name of McMahon and not the first name of Linda, there's always that question mark about you.
Always.
Because granted, Linda had a moment.
Yes.
But 99.9% of her run, she was the good guy McMahon.
Yeah.
You can't say that about Shane, Stephanie, and especially Vince.
Yeah. Now, this is a surprise villains episode. Linda gets a discussion. Because that was a what the hell. Without a doubt, that was probably the biggest what the hell in WWE villain history. Why you kicked Jared in the balls for? What happened? Why you do me like that? You're supposed to be the good one. Anyway.
Number 5 on my list, we also share.
Okay.
Except he was part of your grouping. And I single him out individually.
Okay.
The Riddler.
I figured one of them would come up on your list, and I was pretty sure it was going to be Riddler. So,
Because at the end of the day, when we're discussing TV villains.
Yes.
Keep in mind, folks at home, I never really watched the animated series
Right.
where Mark Hamill's Joker really became the thing of legend.
Hell yes.
But when you look back at this particular series of Batman,
Right.
the Riddler is the greatest villain on the show.
Absolutely.
I will die on that hill. Because the Joker, for as epic as the character of the Joker is, was hokey as shit.
Yes.
He was
Yes.
over the top cornball. That's why that era is defined as the clown prince of crime.
Yep.
The Riddler, even though Batman wasn't the world's greatest detective at this point on television, made Batman and Robin think.
Right.
There's a reason why the Riddler was the very first villain introduced in episodes 1 and 2 of season 1. There's a reason why when Gorshin didn't come back for season 2, they had to create a fake villain called the Puzzler and give the Riddler only one 2-part episode because Gorshin was just that iconic in the role.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they backed the Brinks truck up to Gorshin's house to get him for the single episode he did in season 3.
Yeah.
We sorry, we messed up. Here you go.
Right. Freaking Ron Williams is the genie status.
The Riddler, and especially on the 60s TV show, is the greatest Batman villain because he is the one with the same mental capacity as Bruce.
Yep. Yeah. It's unfortunate that Ra's al Ghul was not better realized in the overall history of the out of comic portions of Batman's universe. Because Ra's al Ghul in the comics, there's a reason he called Batman the great the world's greatest detective. Because he and Bruce Batman were right there. But because we didn't get a really good live action outside of the Nolanverse, and credit to Liam Neeson, because goddamn it, he was awesome. I think that is why Riddler will always be the best overall villain, like you just said, because at every turn we saw him, even in Jim Carrey, who was outwitted at the end, he was still on a level with Bruce Batman for the majority of the stories.
Mm-hmm.
Even in this latest turn with Pattinson, Riddler was on his shit the entire time. And we're going to see him again. It's going to be a thing. So,
yes, it has to be. Coming in at number 4 is a character you name dropped when you discussed one of your villains earlier.
okay.
Yeah, you name dropped a couple villains of this series, and both of them are going to be coming up
Oh,
just because they were that damn good.
well, right.
But number 4 for me, while initially starting off as a great villainous, sadistic bitch, just turned good way too soon for my liking.
Yeah.
And then kind of stuck there.
Yep.
Regina Mills, the Evil Queen. I mean, like I said, she started off so good, so diabolical, so villainous. You know, you think about the Evil Queen in the Snow White story. And she was all of that and then some.
Oh, yeah. Without a doubt.
But then once she turned, she lost her edge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't like that.
no.
You know, the other villain that we'll get to in a little bit turned good a couple times, but did he really? You know, we'll get there. But
Yeah.
Regina, once she committed, she was done with her villainous ways.
Yeah.
And it always pained me because she was so good.
Yep. What was so unfortunate about turning her good was even when they split and ripped the evil queen out of Regina, the evil queen ended up being good in the end too. It was like, she's the villain. You pulled the villain out of her because she's so. Huh? Yeah, that always rubbed me the wrong way. It really did. It was like, come on, guys, that's a cop out.
Yeah,
that was sad. But anyway, she's still great. She's the reason we have the series in the first place. So,
one of the two reasons.
Yep. Well, of course, yeah.
And we're going to get to him again in a minute. But before we get to him,
yes,
the other one that we share, Sylar.
Yeah, the least surprising because I knew he'd come up.
I mean, everything you said earlier is all that really needs to be said. I love the way they portrayed Sylar, especially in the beginning, because you go back and you rewatch the series, and Sylar is very much shot from your 50s, 60s horror movie cinematography.
Yep.
When he is Gabriel Gray, and we don't know that Gabriel Gray is Sylar, you get the full color pop shots, just this is who this guy is.
Little baby face Zach.
We're still hiding the identity of who Sylar is.
Right.
But once they pull that curtain back and you realize that Gabriel Gray is Sylar.
Yeah.
It's on like Donkey Kong.
That was probably the earliest moment where watching it back where I hate this show, Jay, because that was like a what?
Because Gabriel Gray is so mild-mannered.
Right? Yeah. The fact that he's mild-mannered and looks so much like a Clark Kent type, it's like, aha! Should have known all along.
At least he wasn't a butler, because the butler always does it.
Damn butlers. That's right. It's always the butler in the end. Anyway, well.
But again, Gabriel Gray, if it wasn't for these next two people, he very easily could have been number one for me.
Right. Absolutely.
I just feel that the next two people are just even more diabolical.
Yes.
Because even Gabriel Gray, even Sylar had those moments of good.
Yep.
And it usually came around the times when he would lose his abilities and his powers.
Well, of course.
Now I got to be a kiss ass so that people don't fear me. But
right.
As soon as my powers come back,
that's right. As soon as I get my shit back, it's on, bitches.
Number 2 goes back to number 4.
Yeah.
And even though he did have some very few good-hearted moments, much like Vince McMahon at number 6, you're always wondering what's going on in the back of his head. Because if there's one thing that this show taught us, Jeff, above anything else, all magic comes with a price. Rumpelstiltskin.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, you want so bad for his cold heart to thaw, for him to get that moment, and he always pulls back right when he's on the verge of it.
Right until the very end.
Yeah. It's just so beautifully written.
Yep. And even in the end, when he does pull back, it's because he's battling his damn self. So is he really pulling back? Because he's having to. Well, again, if you haven't seen Once Upon a Time, I'm not going to ruin that because that one I feel needs to be spoiler free until every single person in the world watches it because it's that goddamn good a show.
Yeah.
Even the seventh season being what it was. But yeah, the fact that he only finally pulls back because he has to defeat himself is indicative of how truly evil he was.
Yeah. There you go.
But if it's not Rumple and it's not Siler, now I'm curious.
Well, you would understand if you would just get through the fucking show.
Oh, God, of course. Yes.
I mean, yes, Jeremiah evolved into the Joker, even though they can't call him that, evolved into Mr. J for the final season.
Yes.
But Cameron Monaghan as Jerome throughout 90% of the series
Yes.
is everything I always wanted in a Joker.
Definitely.
And I'm not taking anything away from Caesar.
No.
I'm not taking anything away from Mark. I'm not taking anything away from Heath. I'm not taking anything away from Joaquin. Or excuse me. Yeah, Joaquin, and nothing away from Jared either.
Or Jack. Yeah.
Yeah. There have been so many great interpretations of the Joker character.
Yep.
And Gotham was behind the 8 ball the entire time.
Yep.
Because they were not allowed to use the name Joker.
No.
It was the one character they weren't allowed.
Yep.
But how do you do a Batman origin story without a Joker?
Yeah.
So they figured out their own way. They created a character, Jerome Velasca.
Yep.
And without calling him Joker, again, look at the image.
I mean, yeah.
He's the freaking Joker.
Yeah. And what I do know about the character and the show, I love that they found a way to bring facets of every, and I do mean every version of the Joker. Even throw up his face, throw up the image for me again. I'm not going to tell you how it happens in the TV show because unlike, I do want everybody to see Gotham as well, and starting with me, but there was a story in the comics where the Joker literally had his face stapled back, the skin of his face stapled back onto the front of his skull. That's why this version looks like that, because they took that from the comics. You figure Cameron has arguably facets of Mark's laugh and the gangster influence from Jack Nicholson and the over-the-top zaniness of the gimmicks from Caesar, and everything we've seen within a Joker character. Exactly. The folks at Gotham went, okay, take a little bit from this cabinet. Exactly. Make that chili and yeah. And I definitely see why he's your number one. And again, I can't pontificate too much because I'm that guy, but
you're the guy over here telling the world to watch Gotham, and you yourself haven't watched Gotham. So,
hey, I encourage everybody to watch it. That way I can have enough people on my ass with like, all right, there you go. But
Cameron Monaghan's performances as Jerome Velasca is what made me go onto Netflix and start watching Shameless.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. That's a tweet.
Because I discovered him here. I had really discovered him a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away at a pole that is north, playing a extra cop at the very end, bringing a Jack Frost in front of Santa Claus. but didn't know it was him yet. But I discovered him here. Thought he was so damn good. I wanted to know what else he had done.
Yep.
So what do? You do your research. You go onto YouTube. You look up Cameron Monaghan. Top 10 Cameron Monaghan scenes. 10 to 2. Shameless.
Right?
Number 1, his introductory scene from Gotham, where he breaks in the police station. I know you've seen that episode.
Yes.
That's his number 1 performance in that video.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I got to see the rest of this shit.
Yeah.
And then I start watching the show.
Yep. Very hard to argue with any of that. And, again, the fact that we first really see him, wink, wink, as a throwaway character in the grand scheme of what some people argue is a weaker entry of a franchise. I love 3 more than 2 personally, and I know some people don't, and that's fine. Man, the depths he's gone on Shameless and on Gotham are just so good. Oh, the guy's so talented. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely.
It really is.
Watching Shameless, and it's getting too late for either of these actors now because they're already no longer age appropriate.
Right.
But I wanted to see Cameron, and then forgive me for not remembering his real name, but the guy who plays his brother Lip on Shameless.
Oh.
As Paul and John, respectively.
Yes, true. Movie. That's true. That would be really cool.
But unfortunately, they're both too old at this point, because I think the gentleman who plays Lip is already pushing 40, and you figure John was killed at 40, so
Well, but it just depends how,
de-aging is a thing, makeup is a thing, but still, like.
Yes. Oh, Jeremy Allen White. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can totally see him as John Lennon. Absolutely. Yep. And again, even make him a CGI, it wouldn't be hard. Yeah. So I like it. I dig your takes. Valid reasons. I'm so tickled Vince is on both our lists. That just makes my day. It really does. I feel like such a shit cop out. He's higher on your list. I'm like, well, goddamn, I feel so bad now. But I mean, like you said, we're a wrestling channel mine is anyway. For the most part, how do you not have at least Vince? Because he's the most compelling bad guy of the time that our fandom really cultivated.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not gonna lie, I thought about the NWO.
Yeah.
I thought about Roddy Piper.
Yes.
I thought about some of the people that have come since. And I almost used Do-Rag McMahon just because. But then I found that image of him with his corporation behind him.
Hell yeah.
At the very least, Shane Patterson and Briscoe.
Well, right.
And I was just like, man, that was the dastardly Mr. McMahon.
Mr. McMahon won the Royal Rumble. Like, what the hell? That's the statement. That's the tweet. Vince McMahon won the Royal Rumble. Good night.
And then later on that same year, became WWF champion.
Right.
Or no, the next year.
No, same year. You're right.
It was same, okay.
Same year, 99, September 99. God. Yeah. And to think, that image, if you zoom out, I'm sure, and look hard enough, Aaron Riff's in the crowd. So it all ties back to no DQ. He's definitely on camera in the front of the aisle, which we point out to him every time. That's his big G Jeff Jarrett moment right there.
There you go. But what did you guys think of our lists of our top 10 villains? Let us know. If you're watching the premiere, leave your thoughts and comments over there by Meacham. If you're watching on demand later in the day, leave your thoughts and comments down there. Let's engage that conversation. Let's have that discussion, that debate, that interaction that we are always asking you guys for in the comments below.
Yep. I think this is the most we've not shared since we relaunched. or close to it.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
we kind of shared Gorshin a little bit,
yeah.
and then Siler was definitely going to be a thing.
And then Vince.
And then yeah, and Vince was my like, meh. So yeah, figure 17, well, 17 and a half
17 and a
different.
quarter.
17, yeah, 17 and a quarter. That's very
Because you
nice.
had unlocked as a
Because
two, so 18 and a quarter.
Yeah, I mean, shit. And we know there's more TV villains. Like we said,
Yeah,
we are
it was
primarily
just
viewers
difficult because we're
Yeah.
not dramatic TV viewers.
No, I am a sports entertainment. Very funny, Jeff. A sports and wrestling guy. So
I could have just gone to the Disney archives. I could have had Fat Cat. I could have had the Beagle Boys. I could have had Don Carnage. You know, I could have
Right.
had Pete, for Christ's
right.
sake, who you can now go to Toontown and
That's
finally
right.
meet. I could have had Pete. I could have had Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget.
Ooh, honorable mention, without a doubt.
There's so many cartoon characters that I could have just dived in there for, but I didn't want it to be 10 cartoon characters.
Right.
And yes, you can argue the Riddler, the Joker. You can argue the Evil Queen and Rumpelstiltskin. You know, while live action portrayals, probably best known in their animated forms.
Yes.
So you could argue me on that. Freaking Power Rangers is a live action cartoon.
Right.
So there's so many of those that you could argue me on, because at the end of the day, they're still rooted in comics and anime and that type of stuff. And it's like, I could have done that and just been a cheap cop out, but I really wanted to rack my brain, and it took me longer than I thought to come up with these.
Yeah, same with me. It's like I said, we figured, okay, TV villains, got this. I was doing my picture gathering this morning when we went to record. I didn't finalize my list until last night, brother. It was rough.
I did my entire list last night. I did my list by looking for pictures. First, I gathered the pictures, and then I ranked them.
Yeah, and again, you were talking about, you could argue me. That's the whole point of this show. One of our taglines, man. Everything we do, especially on Dads, is SUB-JEC-TIVE.
I love that my daughter does the hand gesture every time.
Right, it's freaking wonderful that she does that. That just makes my day.
I love you, sweetheart.
We are infant one of us. But yeah, it's one of those deals where, we, in the process of planning our shows for the rest of the year, we were talking about, what to fill into stuff we had to unfortunately replace topics with, because we didn't have a chance to get those fleshed out. Top 10 baby faces and heels is going to be one of those that we are going to be subjective. It's going to be a conversation. We're going to have individual lists, because much like this, there's no real right or wrong answer. Some of the villains, I could argue, would be like, yeah, I mean, a great example, Regina. She's presented when we first see her as a villain, but she's ultimately the hero of the whole story. At the end of the day, Rumple, isn't a hero, but he does save the day at the end of the saga because of what happens. So again, there's
keep in mind, I still haven't seen that final season when they,
which is why I'm being very careful, trying very hard. But that's why, it's, I feel like I make a Captain Kirk speech about the Enterprise. That's why we're aboard her. That's why we do what we do, because it generates discussion, and we get people out there talking about, well, yeah, but what about this? What about that? That's exactly why we do this show. That's exactly why we push so hard to get you monetized, because we want that interaction, that feedback, and that discussion generated. That way, when we go out on Saturday nights and do our live shenanigans, we can go, oh, by the way, it's because of stuff like this. And I think that's wonderful.
Absolutely. Speaking of our Saturday night shenanigans, let's get to the shills here, sir.
Well, I mean, that's really do on this show is chill because we're just a bunch of corporate monkeys. So,
That's right.
It's,
As always, Tuesdays, 4 Pacific, 7 Eastern, Stat Boy Sports Bar featuring Dory Lou.
yes.
The Greg Cherry Show, Wednesdays, again,
Woo-woo.
4 p.m. Pacific, 7 Eastern.
So,
Throwback Thursday, every Thursday, beginning at noon and going until the last episode for the week airs.
God bless you,
It
man.
just kind of depends on how long stuff is each week.
And how long YouTube? Let's put the stuff back up. Because, woo!
Some of it
Yeah.
has been very touchy, I'm not gonna lie, but
Yeah.
it's all been fun to relive.
Yes.
And then of course, Renegade's reviews this week, movies that star musicians.
Nice. Look at that. That's a hell of a lineup right there, brother.
You've got Labyrinth with David Bowie. You've got
Oh.
Free Jack with Mick Jagger. You've got Kid and Play in the movie that is not a house party, it's a class act. And then new release Saturday, The Lost Weekend, a love story. The story about John and May Payne's relationship, affair, whatever you want to call it. It's hard to call it affair when Yoko co-signed on it.
Right.
So, it's not like it was not supposed to happen, not taboo. It wasn't supposed to last for 18 months when it's called The Lost Weekend.
Yeah,
But, it is what it is. At the end of the day,
is.
she said, here, you go ahead. And John did for 18 months.
Yeah, I was going to say,
And this is that story, which has never really been told to this extent. It's a story of the Beatles that kind of been kept behind the curtain for years.
Yeah.
That's one of the taglines of the whole movie, is a weekend that lasted 18 months and then took 30 years to tell.
Yeah.
Because I know she's had a book. It's been more than 30 years, I know that, but I believe she had a book come out around the 30-year mark that this is based off of.
Yes.
So I think that's why that's part of the tagline. But be that as it may, this has been kept quiet for a long time.
It's definitely gonna be worth a look. I'm looking forward to hearing your in-depth thoughts about it when it goes up tomorrow.
Definitely. I mean, you think about the Beatles story, and there's countless movies of, for lack of a better term, the when John met Paul,
right,
and the rise story,
the origin story. yeah.
This is that solo years.
Yeah.
Kind of not really talked about all that much on film.
Yeah.
There's Two of Us, which was a VH1 original about Paul coming to John's apartment, them hanging out for the first time together in years, and seeing Lorne Michaels on SNL and them almost going to the studio.
Right.
But other than that, there's really not a whole lot of that 1970s take on the Beatles story. And yes, this isn't the Beatles, this is just John, but
still,
during that 18 months that he was with May, he reconnected with Julian.
Yep.
He reconnected with Paul. He reconnected with Ringo. So I'm sure they're going to play, even if a brief part, part of the story.
Yep. And like I said, this is one of the ones I will seek out because we're pre-taping, no duh. But it's definitely want to see that before you get the review. I will say this though, this may be the only week that you are guaranteed to have me watch without question a review, because I'm curious on your thoughts on Labyrinth. And the reason I say I'm going to watch your review is because I can't watch that movie ever again. I refuse. And the dark, twisted tale of my inability to watch it is deep in my lore, but I'll make it very brief. Blockbuster, Saturday, once a month inventory. The crazy ladies I worked with every single month on inventory all night. And we're talking store close. So 10 p.m. to store opening, 9 or 10 a.m. on a Sunday. 10, 12 hours of Labyrinth on loop on every TV in the store.
I feel for you. I say and I tell people that I've never seen it before, but that's a lie. It's just one of those movies that I saw when it first hit like home media back in
Right.
the 80s.
Right.
And I haven't seen since.
Right.
So I have very little memory of it.
Yes.
Which is why I just tell people I've never seen it.
Yes.
Because if I tell people I've seen it, then they start trying to talk to me about it. And it's like, I don't remember any of it.
Hold on. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, so the easy way to just cut all that out is I've never seen it.
Right. But having had the review go up on Monday, you did get to see it. So there you go.
At the end of the day, it's a Jim Henson product.
Well, of course.
So it's definitely something I've got to try to give a little bit of love to again in my older years.
All right.
You know, same thing with the Dark Crystal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another Henson property.
Yeah.
I probably saw it back in my YMCA days when it first came on VHS.
Right.
You know, but I haven't really seen it since then.
Yeah. Dark Crystal I've never seen ever.
So it's another one that I need to try to re-see, you know, at almost 47 years old, fresh eyes.
Yes.
And see if it sticks with me the way it does with some people.
Right, exactly.
Or if it's one of those, I've seen it, I'm good.
Yeah, yeah. Labyrinth, I can safely say I don't remember and never seen because my brain blocked it out of trauma. So, you know, it's one of those. I've been through therapy. I've regained most of my damn memories before my accident. That shit's buried for life. Because no, I refuse.
Free Jack, I've never seen. I vaguely remember some of the trailers in 91, 92 when it came out.
Right.
You know, you figure you got Emilio Estevez, you know, R. Gordon Bombay, William H. Bonney. You've got Anthony Hopkins, you know, freaking
Dr.
Hannibal Lecter.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you've got Mick Jagger. It's like one of these things just doesn't belong here.
But it works. It works.
Hopefully.
Well,
hopefully it worked.
Yeah.
You know, again, we're pre-taping. So even though the reviews aired, as of taping this, I still haven't seen it yet.
Right, right.
And then Class Act, it's like, okay, you can't do House Party.
Right.
Because that's now a 6-movie franchise.
Yes.
Even if we don't count certain movies, it's still a trilogy if you just count the original Kid and Play series.
Right, right.
House Party 4, I've still never seen. Kid and Play aren't in it. That's the one where Immature took over.
Yep.
When I finally get to doing the entire series, I will have to watch it. It will have to be a thing. Yes. House Party 5, I did see.
Yes.
Because I knew Kid and Play came back in it.
Right.
And I, to date, still haven't seen the new one that LeBron James produced. But Kid and Play have a role in that one too. And as long as they keep coming back for at least a cameo, I'm willing to give it a try because it's not House Party without Kid and Play.
No.
Which is why I've been so opposed to Part 4 for years.
Absolutely.
But Class Act was the throwaway film.
Right.
Even though it came out after House Party 2, I always kind of felt that this was, you know, what happened between House Party and House Party 2, because they're still in high school here. You know, it just doesn't really work long term because Class Act is the movie where Kid ditches the fade and gets the braids that he'd then have in Part 3.
Right.
But, you know, you get a Pauly Shore cameo here.
Yeah.
You've got Hillary Banks is in the movie. Karen Parsons.
Yep. Yep.
So you've got a decent little cast here. It's just the one movie they did that wasn't House Party. Yeah. And it's going to be fun talking about that again.
It's like House
Which,
Party
of course, you saw that one go up before this. So
There you go. There you go. And if you didn't, when we're done, go back and watch it anyway.
Yeah, plenty of time.
It's on demand and shit. SmackDown ain't on for a while on the West Coast. You good?
Yeah. Rampage doesn't start for a little bit either. You still got time.
Yeah, way longer for Rampage.
So.
But we digress. Buy that shirt.
Yes.
And this shirt.
So that is our list for this week.
Good. Like I said, I'm glad you pitched this topic, and I'm glad because as difficult as it was, it engaged the senses, and that's what we're supposed to do with this show. We're supposed to figure out a way to keep it topical and keep it fun. And it was fun to just, how are we gonna do this shit? I'm having trouble, and it worked out because I enjoy it. Like I said, it tickles me to no end that I was calling Vince a cop out, and it's both our lists. Like, all right, well, I was on the right track. It's funny you mentioned the NWO and Piper because the NWO, I think if they'd had a sustained ending to that story, I would have argued for it too. And Roddy just became the one you love to hate.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wasn't like Vince where you just hate that character. Even when he's being a goody two-shoes, like, nah, not so much. Roddy, for a lot of folks out there, not the guy wearing red and yellow on the regular when he's not wearing his corporate shit. But, yeah, no, he's Hogan's adversary, so not my cup of tea. But he's still fun as hell to watch. And when he's not picking on Hogan, dude, I'm right there throwing the kilt on and doing the bagpipes. Like, yeah, go Roddy. So Vince, I think, is the safest villain because he's always an evil son of a bitch.
Absolutely. But again, what did you guys think? Let us know. Leave comments. Until we return to your screens
in May.
In 2 weeks.
Yes.
He is the West Coast professor, Jeff Meacham. I am the Renegade, JJ Williams. Thank you for tuning in to this week's installment of the Dads, Not Always on Wrestling, and we will see you guys next time.
And when we do, may the 5th be with you.